Pinpoint system is a hardwired infrared system that allows staff to call for help from colleagues in any given situation. Like any system, you need a trigger to activate the alarm, you need something to receive that signal, and then somewhere to display that signal. Now, the trigger is actually the personal infrared transmitter worn by the staff. The PIT is short for Personal Infrared Transmitter. There are two levels of call on this transmitter. The first level is an assistance call, which is a lower level of call. It's worn around the waistband by the staff, and if they need to call for assistance, a lower level, not a staff attack, but maybe they just need generally somebody to pop in, maybe got a fractious patient, and they want a colleague just to come in and sort of calm things down, then they can do that quite unobtrusively by just discreetly pressing the bottom of the transmitter. That sends a signal to the receiver in that room, which then sends a signal to the display. An intermittent tone is emitted, and the light will flash outside the door of activation. For an emergency call, if the incident escalates or is a full-blown emergency, they merely pull it from its retaining pin. That sends a coded signal to the receiver in that room. The tone is constant from the sounders within the unit. The exact location will be displayed on the display, and again, the red light outside the door will activate. The receivers are mounted in the ceiling tiles in all the rooms and corridors that are covered, and they're a double gang size black unit, and it's got a little LED on there, a little flashing LED that flashes about every 3 or 4 seconds, and basically that's saying I am ready to receive a signal. There's also another way of activating the alarm, and that is by fixed call points which are positioned at the main reception desk, where there are 3, and one on the first floor ward area desk. If there was an incident, a receptionist or a member of staff could discreetly press the button, and again it will activate the alarm and show up on the display. The display at the nurse space or the reception will show the exact location of the activation. To aid personnel responding also, outside each room that is protected by the system, there is a red over-door light, a bright LED, and upon activation within that room, the LED will activate and flash. So if a member of staff is coming into the area, they might not necessarily need to go to the display to check where the activation is. If they see a red light flashing outside a room, that is where the Pinpoint alarm has been activated. The system also covers the external areas of the hospital, especially the area leading to the staff car park. Slightly different outside. When activating the transmitter outside, you will need to point it towards the receiver which you see on the outside of the building. It's a black unit with a clear face on it in a large grey box. Also, at the staff car park on the CCTV column, there are 3 infrared receiver units to cover all angles in the car park. And again, if you need to activate your alarm, you pull it and you point it or wave it towards one of those receivers, and it will activate, and the exact location of the external area will be displayed inside on the displays. If an assistance call is activated on the first floor, only the sounders and the display will activate on the first floor. Similarly, assistance call on the ground floor, that level of call will remain on the ground floor. However, in an emergency activation, then it goes to displays on the ground and first floor, and the sounders will activate on both floors as well. If it's alerted outside, an emergency activation outside will go throughout the hospital. The personal infrared transmitter has a capacitor in it and not a battery, and therefore it requires charging. There is an energizer station provided on each floor at the nurse space reception area where you would collect your personal transmitters. To energize or charge your transmitter. It's purely done by plugging it in to a small energizer station, pressing a button, and generally no more than 15 seconds later, that pit will be charged and ready for use. The charge will generally last up to 3 days if it's not used. However, because you don't know when it was last used or charged when you come in to start your shift, it is imperative that you energize your transmitter as soon as you're allocated it. Also, after each emergency activation, you should also re-energize your pit, because the pin could have been removed from it maybe for only 10 seconds, but there could be an incident which takes longer to deal with. The pin could be withdrawn from the pit for a length of time, and of course it could discharge a lot of energy from the capacitor. So you should always, after emergency activation, re-energize your pit. The most important thing to do once you've energized your pit is to ensure that it's fully operational on both levels of call. It is a sleeved box with a red and green light. The sleeves are there purely to stop any signal coming out and setting off any alarms in the locality. You have a green light and a red light. The green light is to check that the assistance level of call is fully operational, and the red light for the emergency level of call. To test your transmitter, insert the unit inside the box, depress the button on the bottom, and the green light will come on to show that the assistance level of call is fully operational from this transmitter. By pressing the button and releasing, you check that it's fully operational. Test the emergency level, you pull it from its retaining pin. Pull from its retaining pin, being careful not to hold the top clear section of the transmitter. The red light comes on and the emergency activation is fully operational. Then place the pin back into the unit and withdraw the unit intact from the test station. Once the system has been activated and the situation has been dealt with, then the system needs to be reset. And this is done via a key reset switch, which is located adjacent to the display on the main reception area and on the nurse space on the first floor. It's a biased switch which you just need to turn clockwise for about 2 seconds and then release, and the switch will return to its normal position and the system will be reset. If there is more than one call at any one time, you may have 2 or 3 activations of the system, then each individual activation will scroll on the display. So it is important that before they reset, they check for a couple of seconds that there's no other incidents that are scrolling down the display, because they may reset the whole lot and the activations may disappear from the screen. Like any alarm system, it should be tested every month. All the units, all the infrared receiver units should be tested every month. To enable the estates or facilities people to do that, they will have a small receiver unit tester, so they can go along and test the units without having to reset at a main display and without setting all the alarms off. This should be done on a monthly basis and every receiver covered.